Okay, it looks like some people have been joining us. We'll just wait a couple more moments so that we have some more guests joining us. Hello. Okay, looks like we have a bunch of other viewers coming up. I see 3 viewers now. That's wonderful. Uh, guess we'll just wait maybe a couple more moments before we get started. By the way, greetings everybody. My name is Mover Fred. I am one of the science communicators and the resident chemist at the Mind Museum. So we'd like to welcome you all to another installment of our Mind at Home. This time it's being filmed live from my home, and hopefully you're all watching it from your homes as well. Uh, we'll still wait for a couple more people, I think. If you have any questions or if you're curious about some of the other stuff that we're doing here at the museum during this very trying time, you can follow us on Facebook and other bits of social media. Okay, so in any case, right now we're going through some very trying times, lalo na may COVID-19 pandemic rather, and it's really making a lot of people very, very anxious and very, very stressed out. What do you suppose we can do to cope with this current situation? Well, according to the US CDC, we should be taking some time to find things we enjoy. We should be taking time to do things that we like so that we can help better manage ourselves during this current situation. With that in mind, we've come up with Mind at Home, which is a set of videos and little activities for everyone to try out in an effort to protect and cope with our feelings during this pandemic and situation. With that in mind, let's get going to today's activity. So on Tuesday, we had my mover picture talk about pressure and how it's able to help us move things. Can Today we play pressure a little bit, but this time in affecting how things float, we're going to be making a Cartesian diver. So a Cartesian diver was named after René Descartes. You're probably familiar with the name. If not, he is a French polymath. And it's a very, very simple toy. I'm actually going to make one using recycled materials, which are, first off, a plastic bottle. So it needs to be kind of squishy. Oh, that's pretty loud. Okay, it needs to be kind of squishy. You need to make sure that you have a cap for it, and this cap needs to fit snugly on top. We're going to fill this up with water. We're going to put that down. So other materials. The next material we're going to need, as I mentioned, was water. So I'm going to put some water in the bottle. Okay, I bet some of you are gonna tell me I should have done this in the bathroom. I don't have a very pretty bathroom, so I think this is going to have to suffice. By the way, this water is clean, but it's not potable. If you're done making this experiment at home, don't drink the water. You can use it to wash your hands, though. Please remember to wash your hands properly for 20 seconds to help slow down the spread of COVID-19. Okay, so we have water inside of our bottle. Now, we have called this activity the Cartesian diver, so we're going to need some kind of diver. That's where this little thing comes in. Okay, so this is a little sauce packet. Could be made of ketchup, could be made of soy sauce, could be gravy, anything, could even be mustard. I personally prefer using ketchup, but you can use whatever you have at home. In this case, I've had this thing with me for I don't know how long. I have a habit of taking these if I'm eating out. Anyway, so our little diver will be our very, very squishy sauce packet, and we're going to be placing it inside of our bottle. So I'm going to be carefully placing it in. All right, and then we'll seal it up so that the water doesn't spill. Just going to do it really tightly. Ta-da! Okay, so I bet some of you are wondering, hang on, Fred. You said it's a Cartesian diver. It should be diving, right? Well, that's pass it on to your kin or loved ones, of course. And then you can ask them, how do you make the sauce packet sink to the bottom of the bottle. I'll give you a couple of moments to think about it, but caveat. Number one, you cannot spill out the liquid. Number two, you cannot flip over the bottle. So the bottle has to remain upright at all times. I'll give you guys maybe 20 seconds to think about it. Less than 20 seconds, I think, to think about the solution. If you have some comments or questions, you can fill them up there, though I will get to them after the presentation. Okay, so you can't pour out the liquid, you can't flip over the bottle. How will you make the diver, the sauce packet, sink? Here's a neat little trick. So I'm just going to place both my hands here at the bottom part of our bottle. Okay, I think you can see it there on the video. And I'm just gonna make sure there's nothing underneath. And this is just, a notebook because I needed the leveling. And I'm going to just press the bottle carefully and consistently with my fingers. So I'm squishing the bottle. Oh, and as you can see, I'm actually gonna go closer. The sauce packet has sunk. But if I release my hands, whoop, the sauce packet has floated. So whenever we squeeze the bottle, the sauce packet sinks, but whenever we release it, it floats again. Now, this little toy here isn't really fun on its own because, it seems like it's a little bland. So we're going to have a little bit more fun with this. I'm going to put this away for a sec. And we're going to try to one-up ourselves. So give me a sec, I'm going to move some stuff because I need space for this one. There we go. Okay, so we have a much larger bottle over here. This is I think 1 or 1.5 liter bottle. I have decorated it with some little sea critters using the recycled coverings of the bottle. I don't want to use stuff might be a little hard to come by. At the same time, recycling is going to be very efficient use of your resources. And of course, we're going to need another diver, but this time I've decided to play around with it a bit. I'd like to introduce you all to Steve. Okay, so Steve over here is actually a ketchup packet also, but then I do this shape, right? This little shape here, and now it looks like a squid. So Steve Squid is going to be our Cartesian diver for this set of experiments. I'm actually going to put him inside of our little bottle, and we're going to see if we can make Steve sink or float also. All right, so I'm just going to be careful with this so I don't break his tentacles. Oh, those are very, very... Okay, I think Steve is fighting back today. Give me a sec, guys. I can pull the fins up a bit so that he will squish in. Can be very careful. I don't want to hurt. And right, so we have Steve the Squid inside of our bottle. Now let's see and apply enough pressure. Bring him all the way to the bottom of our bottle. All right. So I might have to work a bit harder because there's no water here. Alright, so we now have Steve the Squid ocean diver sinking the bottom of our bottle and flipping using the water. Again, there's no holes on these little circles. So we release, he floats back to the surface. So I'm just put that over there. And we're going to explore the over thinks that Steve is very, very cute. Thank you so very much. All right, let's try to explore the science. Right here, I've got a board. I'm very lucky that I have one of these over here. I'd like to thank my folks for this since they helped me bring this up here. Okay, so we have our plastic bottle, so it's very squishy. We have our, I'm actually gonna hold this up, our ketchup packet. And we have our water. Now, our ketchup packet likes to always be near the surface of the water. Why do you guys think that is? What's inside of our ketchup packet? Kind of squishy because they're not just filled with the sauce that we like to eat It's also filled with a bit of gas, and this gas is actually air, usually. So that's just a normal byproduct of the way that they make these little sauce packets. And this air here has this little neat trick. It is what we call a very low density object or low density substance. Now that means that air doesn't have a lot of weight, it doesn't have a lot of mass, it takes up a very large amount of space. It's because of that, we don't really feel the air around us, but it's there. And also the interesting about air is that it can be squished and it always expand. And we're doing that. Now, the pressure is to flow because the air inside it makes it less than water, which we burn upward first. Strong effect of gravity, which is why it's slow. Very, very dense that it will sit at the bottom. And hold on. This when you see bottom, what hours water doesn't want to compress, actually moves all that force all around the ketchup and to the air pocket. So because of that things, it's really, really small. And when it gets really, really, really small, there's not really a lot of how do you call this? There's not really a lot of how do you call this? There's not really a lot of space occupied by the air anymore. And so, instead of floating, gravity starts to kick in and the starts to sink. The side is allowed to get bigger again, and then the opposite becomes true. The ketchup packet begins to float, and then gravity does not take as strong an effect on it. So this little game is actually pretty neat for the kids. Lots and lots of, well, the ketchup packet has some air inside of it. Okay, so this is very neat for teaching kids about the concepts of pressure, the Archimedes principle, the properties of gases and liquids, a bit of pneumatics, and also hydraulics. And overall, it just makes for a very fun toy. So remember, when we squeeze the bottle, we are squeezing the air inside of Steve, making him sink. But then when we stop squeezing, the air inside of Steve is able to expand again. You don't have to use a ketchup packet for this. You can actually use all sorts of different materials. I've seen people make this with straws. I've seen people make this using droppers. I've seen people also try to make this with how do you call this? Little bits of plastic. Really, it's up to you what you want to use in order to make this little toy. So, with that out of the way, I'm very happy to take some questions and or clarifications from everyone. Yes, this has a very strong inclination towards talking about density as well. Oh wow, there are air bubbles inside a packet. Yes, there is usually a little bit of air trapped inside of your ketchup packet. If you want to try this experiment at home with a ketchup packet, you're gonna have to check if it floats first. I've noticed that certain brands do not have them very floaty. I've also noticed that the older packets tend to work a little better. Sometimes that's also an indication of the contents not being very good to eat anymore, since it's already started to inside of the Lego, I actually think a Lego might be possible if some air can get trapped inside. You know, like if you were to put a get or what do you call this? Like if you're trying to put a tabo upside down inside of a bucket, right, which is filled with water, and you'll notice that as you press down on the tabo, it's upside down, right? Like something like this. Let's say, I'm gonna look for space here. So you have a bucket, right? And put your tabo upside down, and you try to put it down, and then there's water. If there's air that's trapped here, you'll notice it float rapidly up. So yeah, I think in the same way, if you have a Lego and there's air trapped inside of it, inside those little pockets underneath, it's very possible for it to work. You're gonna have to try it out. Oh, yes, you can do this with multiple Steves. I was actually planning on doing this with multiple Steves, but then I didn't have enough ketchup packets on me that worked. I had several, but then I had to test which ones would float. Okay, I'm still willing to take some questions about this little activity. Again, it's full of very, very many activities. For those who are also kind of wondering, I chose Steve as name because I've got a buddy who's a knife maker, and his name is also Steve. And squids have this little blade-like shape on top. Just a little, side fun fact. Okay. Oh, how about an egg? Okay, first question would be, can you fit an egg inside of this bottle without breaking it or, doing anything to boil the egg? I think it might be possible, though it might be ruining a very good egg. Alternatively, if the egg is already pretty, pretty rotten already or close to rotting, it will only have an air bubble inside because eggs, let's put an egg here. An egg has a small air sac inside of it, which which can expand if the insides have started to already rot. Which is why you've probably seen it online. There's this little neat test where you put an egg inside of some water to test if it's like less fresh. You can actually, it's leaning on its side, it's very fresh and on the bottom, but if it starts to tilt up, it's starting to go bad, and if it starts to float, it's already gone bad. I actually think it's very useful for determining whether eggs are bad, and it's very applicable to this little setup also because it talks about air and its density against water, which helps it stay buoyant or afloat. Actually, yes. I see one of our viewers has said that yes, it would probably be another experiment. So yeah. If you want to try this out yourself, you can, You can try it using bits. You can try this using different materials to make your own little Steve. You could also try different shapes of bottles. I've noticed that not every bottle has the best, has the best squish to it. Sometimes you have to work harder, sometimes you have to work less hard. Because the shape of the bottle also distributes your pressure unevenly. So, all right, let's see. Oh, can this work with a plastic bottle instead of a plastic bag instead of a bottle? Yes, it probably could, but I think you probably squeeze and destroy the plastic bag before you're able to break you're most likely going to break the plastic bag before you're able to force Steve down it. Also, I don't think we should put Steve in a plastic bag. I think it's a little unsafe. Oh, will it work on soda instead of water? I think it will work on soda instead of water, but I think you might have a bit of a harder time with because soda is carbonated, so there's a lot of, Well, not just carbonates, also a little bit more viscous than water. I think you might need a little bit more effort in order to get Steve to sink inside of it. Is it only applicable to porous substances or only limited materials that contain air? Okay, so yeah, I think it's possible also to do this with a porous substance. The question, however, whether the air is side of the material, as opposed to moving all the way up to the surface once you've already scooped it out. If you have any real suggestions, I strongly recommend that you try them out with your own little setup and send us photos of it online. Looks like I might be running a bit low on time, but in any case, I want to thank everybody for joining us for our Mind at Home today. If you're interested in doing this little activity or any of the activities that we've been posting or will be posting, please share to us on our Facebook page. If you have any questions or clarifications, we, the Minders, are very happy to answer them. Or if you have any emails, we're more than happy to answer them too. So thank you all so very much for joining us. Please follow us on our social media pages for more updates and more Mind Home. You can also catch us next Tuesday for the next Mind at Home. I'm going to leave it as a surprise for now what that will be. So once again, okay, let's go one last dive. Sure. Let's go one last dive. All right. So I'm gonna do is actually up close, everyone can see. I'm gonna move this away. All right. And let's watch Steve sink. All the way down, Steve. And then float. All right. So, thank you again so very much for checking us out. Yeah, you can catch the next Mind at Home on Tuesday. Please follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Once again, my name is Mind Mover Fred, and I am signing out. Thank